Hey guys, today we're going to solve quadratic inequalities. Two different methods to do it. One's algebraically, one's graphically. I'm going to show you two examples of both. That's pretty much all it's going to be in the video. And I think it's going to make sense to you once you see it. At least I hope it does. And if it doesn't, we'll work on it in class anyway. So here we go. All right, first two are going to be solved algebraically. What I'm going to do with these is I'm going to factor them. They're quadratics, and they're going to factor for you today. So this one would factor x minus 4, x plus 1 is less than 0. So my two zeros would be 4 and negative 1. Those would be my two zeros. Now, I'm not trying to figure out what x equals, even though I just wrote that. That's an inequality, so it's going to be, x is greater than something, less than something. So what we do is we draw a little number line, put negative 1 over here, put 4 over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick numbers, a number over here, a number in the middle, and a number over here, and see if it makes it true or not. See if it just makes it positive or negative. So let's try, for example, zero's in between there, so let's try plugging in 0. If I plug in 0 for x in both of them, it would give me negative 4 times 1, which is negative 4, which is negative. So everything in between negative 1 and 4 is negative. And if I plug in a number over here to the left side, let's say, I don't know, like negative 10. That'd be, the first parentheses would be negative 14, the second would be negative 9, and that's going to be a positive, positive 126, which is definitely positive, so I get a positive over here. And then I'm going to plug in something over here bigger than 4, so let's just say 5. If I plug in 5 here and 5 there, 5 minus 4 is 1, 5 plus 1 is 6, multiply those, you get positive 6, so that's positive also. So I'll be honest, it's always going to alternate like that. So I hope you heard that. So because this says less than 0 up here, I'm looking for the numbers that are less than 0, which are negative, which is in between here. So my answer is going to be x is between negative 1 and positive 4. That's my answer. You can write it in interval notation like we've been doing, like that right there. Both answers fine. Let me show you one more like that. All right, this one says 9x squared greater than 25 algebraically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the 25 over because I need to have a 0 so I can tell whether I'm looking for positive or negative numbers or not. Then I'm going to factor it. It's the difference of squares. 3x plus 5, 3x minus 5. My stylus would probably make a noise there. I forgot to change the setting. So my two zeros is negative 5/3 and positive 5/3. That's what's going to go on my number line. So I'm going to put a negative 5/3 over here. That's 5/3. Positive 5/3 over here. And I'm going to pick numbers, everywhere. So, but I hope you heard what I said last time. I always pick 0 first just because it's easy to plug in. If I put 0 here for x and 0 there for x, it gives me 5 times negative 5, which is negative 25, which is negative. So everything in between is negative. And what I said on the last slide is the signs always alternate. So instead of plugging in everything everywhere, I'm just going to make it alternate, plus, minus, plus. Now this time it says the problem says greater than 0. So I'm looking for where the positives are. Well, it's positive over here, which is less than negative 5/3. Or it's also positive over here, which is greater than positive 5/3. And there you have it. If you do interval notation, just remember from the past, we'd write it like, we would say negative infinity to negative 5/3. We're going to put the big U in the middle, and then say for union, and go 5/3 to positive infinity. Okay, that's solving algebraically. That's two of those. Look back if you need to. I'm going to go to the graphing way now. Okay, this one says solve by graphing, that inequality quadratic. And what I did to make the video shorter, I went ahead, when it says by graphing, you're probably going to do quadratic formula, which I did, and I got these two answers right there for my quadratic formula. Okay, now what's different from what we did last week, it's hard to graph that, so I punched in 1 plus the square root of 61 over 6 in my calculator, and I got that right there. I plugged in 1 minus the square root of 61 over 6, and I got that. And those are 2 points I put on my graph. And when I graph this, it's going to sound weird. I don't really care where the vertex is. I know it's between those two. I know because that's positive 3 in the problem, it opens up like this. Okay, I know that's what the graph does. Goes through my 2 points. Now, I'm looking for the part where it's greater than or equal to 0, which means it's above the x-axis. So where's it above the x-axis? Well, right here, and also, it's not working, right there, those two spots. So where are those spots? One is from negative infinity until you get to negative 1.135, or I could have also put that in there. Also from 1.47 until you got to infinity. Notice I put the bracket around the second one because I caught my mistake on the first one. Because the problem had an equals to in it, it needs a bracket. Okay, the first two we did, they didn't have that on there, so that's the difference. Okay, let me show you one more just to make sure that makes a little bit of sense to you. Okay, one more, solve by graphing. Now this one won't factor, so to find, I have to find the zeros. I have to find those x-intercepts because it's all about the x-intercepts. And so I did this quadratic formula. Got that right there, punched it in my calculator. I punched in exactly 3 plus the square root of 5 divided by 2. Then 3 minus the square root of 5 divided by 2. And there's my two answers that I got, my two zeros. So I graphed those. I'll make them a little darker here. There's one of them. There's the other one. Again, it's a positive 1 in the front. It's going to open up. I don't really care exactly where the vertex is. I know it opens up. I know it does this right here. This time, though, the problem wants less than 0, which is below the x-axis. So where's the graph below the x-axis? What's below right here? Okay, between my two x-intercepts, between my two answers. So my answer to the problem would be between 0.39 and 2.61. Or if you want to write it the other way, it would look like this. And this time there were parentheses because there were no equal sign in the problem, like you're used to seeing. All right, guys, that's it. Two methods to solve those things. Hopefully not too bad at all. And we'll work on several of each type tomorrow in class. I know you're excited about that. I can't wait to see you. See you then.